Gettysburg. I'd like to start off by saying that I am not a firm believer in the paranormal. Until these accounts occurred, I was blissfully ignorant to any supernatural phenomena. About 6 years ago, I took a trip to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I was about 30 years old, and we departed the trip from Virginia at about 7 a.m. After a long ride and some rather embarrassing photos later, we arrived at our hotel. We were staying 2 days and 1 night. My buddy Eric and I began unpacking as I made plans to visit the battlefield later in the night. The schedule for the day, however, included lunch in a museum followed by a ghost walk in the woods. After the ghost walk, we were to go and hear the history of some hotel on the main strip. The day proceeded relatively normal, that is, until we walked down Pickett's Charge. I walked up this hill with Eric and looked down at the woods about 100 yards away at this point. Our group of about 20 people were standing right behind us. I clearly saw a young girl with long black hair and a white nightgown at the tree line. She had a dazed but happy expression on her face, but what scared me was her rather elongated fingers and sharp nails. Apparently I had stopped in my tracks and stared at it for so long because Eric asked what the hell was wrong with me. I shook it off as nothing and continued down the hill. The figure disappeared as soon as I looked away. One group went into the woods and heard some bland, generic stories from historians and locals. Preceding that, we got to the hotel, not the same one we're staying at, for the next lecture. They seated all of us in the basement, which had chairs arranged. This basement was by no means finished. It had the original stone foundation and wooden ceiling. Sitting beside me was my pal Eric, to my left. The hotel staff began speaking about the eerie history of the place. At about 15 minutes, Eric was looking a little nervous. He didn't respond when I asked him what was wrong, but he was fine again minutes later. We left the area and went back to our hotel at about 11 p.m. Eric and I went to our room. As the long night went on, I was sitting under the window. Eric was laying on his bed. At this time, he looked at me with the most terrified expression I'd ever seen. This, along with his other episode back in the basement, led me to intensely question what his deal was. Refusing to give an answer, he got furious with me and told me he was going to bed. The rest of the trip continued rather normal. It wasn't until 2 weeks later I had to deal with one of the most terrifying realizations of my life. Eric called me on one Saturday. We need to talk. Finally, at this point, I got to hear the connecting point. That night back in Gettysburg, I saw something in the basement of our hotel. I saw these long fingers with sharp nails slowly caressing the window pane from the outside. My heart began to race. When I tried to make sure I wasn't seeing things, my phone started vibrating, but the battery was dead, and I knew it wasn't working. A strong surge of anxiety poured over me as he went on with his explanation. Remember when we were back at our hotel afterwards and me and you had that little argument? I saw something behind you, in the window. A little girl in white with long black hair, and she looked angry. What? I responded. He continued. The morning after I saw that in the window, I woke up with 3 long bloody scratches under my shirt from my neck to my waist. They were hot to the touch. I thought I knew what was going to show me next, but I wish I hadn't asked. He lifted up his shirt, revealing 3 long bloody scratches from his neck all the way to his waist. He insisted I feel them, burning hot to the touch in the middle of February. To this day, I still think I can see her out of the corner of my eye, lingering near that wooded area.